we have a bunch of listeners that live outside of the DMV, right? A bunch of people consume the content, frankly, from all over the world. But for those of us here, there is a massive issue that still doesn't seem to be getting the recognition it should. And the guy that's helped us understand how bad things are going is our friend Mark Segraves from NBC4. Mark, kind enough to make some time for us now. Segraves, how you doing, man? What's going on?
JP, BMitch, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Before we get started, JP, I just want to say that picture that you tweeted out of the 3 chairs left vacant at the Commanders' press conference representing the Washington Post sports writers who've been fired was beautiful, heartbreaking, and so much appreciated, I think, by so many of us. And just kudos to the Commanders and everybody for making that statement. I just want to thank you for putting it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Commanders did the work. I just took a photo, but absolutely. It's sad. You and I were talking about it.
Sad.
It's just sad. Now, there is some good news. It looks like the Baltimore Banner is going to pick up a lot of these former Post reporters to continue covering teams in town.
And Ian was trying to do a lot of stuff, but they stopped talking to him.
Really? At City Paper? Interesting. There's a great sense of irony to me that the Baltimore's got to pick up D.C. on this one, but here we are. Let's talk about this river situation because it is bad and messy and gross. And you had the information earlier this week, I think, that the data we were first given of how gross and how bad this is was way underestimated.
Yeah, so, I first think it's important to say your drinking water's safe, right? You don't have to worry about your drinking water. You don't have to worry about taking showers. That's all good. That's all safe. The second thing I'll say, because I want to be fair to DC Water before I start kicking their butt down the road, is engineer-wise, they have done a masterful and a yeoman's job of trying to contain and fix and control this, massive spill. The engineering work that they have done through 24 hours a day through that blizzard to redirect the flow of the sewage so that the vast majority is no longer going into the river. They are to be highly commended for that and good for them. But that's really where the accolades are going to end for me, because as you pointed out, DC Water, again, to their credit, every day on their website, they post an update. And that's good. The problem is those updates are at times incomplete. They at times are hard to understand and can be easily misinterpreted. And at least one point, they were just factually incorrect. And it was the release of testing data on the level of E. coli in the river. They had reported numbers and were proud to report these numbers that they said showed that the level of E. coli was going down since the original first few days of the spill, which is expected for it to do, right, because it's diluting in the river. And so they were proud to put those numbers out. Well, they realized 2 days later that they got the numbers wrong, and it was 100 times worse than the numbers that they had reported to the public. 100 times. They were 2 decimal points off. And that just hurts DC Water's credibility in it, and it just, brings it back into the front page of the news, and it was just, and they say it was human error. They haven't, I've had one person walk me through how it happened. They haven't gone on the record with that, but it was just sloppy. It was just not what you want out of an organization that is entrusted with our drinking water and the health of our river. And so that was a big setback for them. They had another setback engineer-wise when they discovered this massive boulder inside the pipe that is going to delay repairs for at least another month, if not another 5 or 6 weeks, so possibly into the spring. And in the meantime, all this poo, sewage, grease, wastewater flows down the C&O Canal, and you can taste it in your mouth if you walk down there. It's anywhere from Lock 10, which is right where the 495 bridge crosses the river, all the way down to Georgetown. You should avoid contact with the river. DC just put out its most stern warning to avoid any contact of you or your pets. You know, it's going to be 50-some degrees on Saturday. Resist the urge to take your dog down the river and let him run around free on the banks of the Potomac River if you are anywhere downriver of the 495 bridge. Wow. In Cabin John, and that goes all the way down to Georgetown into D.C. So, you know, and then you had the CEO and the general manager, David Gaddis of D.C. Water. He has yet to speak publicly. I have asked for multiple occasions to interview him. They have declined my request for interview with the general manager. He has held no press conferences, no public forum. He is testifying later this afternoon before the Maryland House of Delegates Subcommittee on the Environment. But other than that, he has had no public statements, but he did release a letter to the public, which really upset a lot of people because, you know, he wrote, for instance, in his opening paragraph that it was deeply troubling, this spill, as if it was in the past tense, as if it's not ongoing. He made no reference in his letter to the misinformation, the bad test results that they put out. He made no reference to actually how much sewage is going in and has gone into the river, and that number is somewhat in dispute. It is certainly in the hundreds of millions of gallons, even by D.C. Water's lowest estimates, but it could be much, much more. We don't know because, once again, D.C. Water refuses to release the actual data that would show exactly how much sewage flows through that pipe every single day since the spill. So I wish I had better news for you guys and your listeners, but I just really want to urge two things. Your drinking water is safe, but the Potomac River is not. Do not get out there with your dogs. Don't paddle. Don't fish. Don't crew. Don't come in contact with the Potomac River anywhere downriver of the 495 bridge.
The question I have right here is that, you know, it froze. Everything was frozen. And so it was. I would think it was stagnant. It's going to start moving again. How long does it take all that stuff to get out of there since they're going to try? I still don't know how a boulder got inside the pipe, but how quick does it get out once it starts to flow again?
So the boulder got in the pipe because it was the pipe was underground, and when they built the pipe, they did backfill over it with boulders and rocks and dirt. When the pipe broke, that dirt and rocks and boulders fell into the pipe. So I can answer that question. I'm happy to get one off your checklist. So the cold weather and the ice is bad for multiple reasons for this. One, as you just correctly pointed out, it slows the flow of the river. The river is at a lower level. The flow is not as great. The ice is holding things in place. And so typically when sewage and this, you know, human waste goes into our waterways and rivers, dilution is the solution, right? And so it gets in the water and then it dissipates over time. And then, you know, the warm weather and the sunlight hits it, and the sunlight is a disinfectant. Well, none of that is happening because of the cold weather and the ice. So the sunlight is not acting as a natural disinfectant. It is not flowing. It is not dissipating as it would in heat. So it's like it's being kept in a refrigerator.
Yeah.
I interviewed Ryan Miller, our meteorologist and a science teacher here at Channel 4, and he actually on his social media put out a flow chart of his anticipation of how it is going to make its way eventually to the Chesapeake Bay. And we've already had the state of Maryland issuing stoppages in a lot of the shell fishing industry in the Potomac River below this site. And the watermen are very upset and concerned about their livelihood going into this season as a result of this. So we don't know exactly how long it's going to take. You know, once this melt starts and the ice goes away and the river starts flowing faster and at a higher level, with that will be, like I said, good and bad. It'll be good because it'll help it dilute and move on, and as it moves on, it breaks up, and then the warm weather and the sunlight can get to it. But then it's also going to release everything that's being held in place, and we can expect these bacteria levels to possibly, you know, spike or get higher as the ice melts, and then the warm temperatures release that bacteria that's being held in place there.
Mark, the questions are simple. I fear the answers aren't. Who's to blame? We live in a world where we blame people for things. And how and when does it get fixed?
So I get paid to blame people, and I'm a professional. I have a license for this, and it's protected by the U.S. Constitution. Look, we don't know who's to blame. We know that the pipe is 60 years old. And while that is old, not that old, I'm in my 60s, when it comes to your underground infrastructure, particularly in Washington, D.C., that's kind of new. I mean, a lot of our sewers in Washington, D.C. date back to the Civil War, to the mid and late 1800s. So 60 years isn't ancient, but it's certainly not brand new. And there is budget, $600 million to look and refurbish and upgrade this exact pipe that broke. So it was on their to-do list, and it's been funded. How it exactly broke, what caused it to break, whether it was cold weather or construction in the area or who knows what, they just don't know. And quite honestly, there will be plenty of time to kind of try to figure that out, once they get this fixed. As far as getting it fixed, they estimate it could take at least another 5 weeks, if all goes well, just to get the pipe fixed and get the sewage flowing back again normally with zero leakage, zero overflow into the river anymore. We're still not at that point. That could be another month or longer to get that done. But then you have the remediation of the area that has been used as an open container for sewage, and that's about a mile stretch of the C&O Canal. And then whatever residual is along the shorelines of the Potomac River, I don't know if there's even any way they are capable of cleaning that up. But the canal for that stretch from Lock 14 to Lock 10, where they are basically using it as an open sewer. When you go there at a low flow time, you can see the residual grease, because it's not just sewage, right? It's grease, it's detergents, it's everything that goes into our drains and sewers from restaurants and car washes and everything, right? You see all of that stuff clinging to the brush and the grass and the sticks and the trees and everything along the banks of the canal when you go down there at low flow. And that's what's going to be left behind after they drain the swamp, so to speak, once this pipe gets fixed. And that is going to, and then each one of these locks are historic structures dating back, to George Washington's time, and the wood and the stonework. All of that will have to be cleaned or repaired or replaced. So it'll be an epic undertaking. All DC Water will say is they've hired a firm to develop a plan.